I remember 2 years ago when I started out and I really picked out, like, I think I need to do something with this. But there wasn't the real name. You had Alexa. You kind of had the Google Assistant, Google Home, and it wasn't really even clear yet what it was going to be called. And I was like, okay, web was easy, mobile was easy, but what shall I do now? Nobody has called it something. I'm like, maybe I should choose. So I just said for myself, I'm just always going to call it voice, because then it'll be easy. But yeah, it's still very young, and that'll be one of my messages today, that that we a little bit have to get used to, I guess. Connect. So I think one of the key things today with voice is that for the first time ever, you can just talk to any customer at any moment in time. So if you are a company that has customers, what would you say then? Are you capable of having a conversation, of knowing what they want, knowing what is interesting? I think that is, that's, if you really think about that, that's mind-blowing. I mean, I grew up with TV. You just blast your information, or you had direct marketing, literally above the fold, above the line. I mean, those kind of things. That's all over. Now you can talk instantly. Somebody's sitting in the bathroom. He thinks about KLM. I want to book a ticket. He could. Oh yeah, I could pull out his phone too, but still. So what would you say? This is me at home. She's a smart ass. So this is not staged. This is a random social video, 2 years old almost. 5 years ago, I got my first Alexa. I was in the first beta group. So my kid, they're 5 years old now. They grew up with it. They don't know anything about it. And this is what we see now. We have the voice first generation. We talk about kids swiping the TV. That's over. Kids are now on their bike for the first time in their life and talking to the bike and say, hey, stop, brake, instead of, circling backwards. Can you imagine that? Even worse, can you imagine that we are the only and last keyboard generation? Because why the F do we need a keyboard or a mouse or swiping?
They said the same about vinyl.
Of course, Chris. Yes, right. Vinyl's coming back. Yes. I have another one where a kid is in a tent and he asks the tent to turn on the lights. I collect now these tweets. So I'm Martin Lens-FitzGerald. I instigate movements that shape the future. Now that I'm getting a little bit older, I kind of know what I'm doing all the time. This is my 5th new medium. New medium is what I keep doing. I started out with the web when the Disco Tower was actually a place where you had Shell Research do his work. That's where I built my first websites before Netscape was even out. I did a lot of email. That's where I met this guy. I did a lot of mobile. Did some events there as well. Worked with awesome brands. Did a little stint in augmented reality. Are we familiar with augmented reality? Do we remember an app that you held up like that? And well, that was my fault. Sorry about that. People did give us 18 million to spend on it, and we did reach kind of 44 million users. So that was nice, 65K business users. So that worked out well. I did something with teams and human accelerated transformation. I still love people dynamics and how that works. But 2 years ago, I really got back into the technology thing. And so that's when I'm like, you know what? I'm going to put on the voice evangelist jacket. Nobody's doing that. I literally ask people, where should I write about this? Or what should I do? And look at me now, 2 years later, together with Neos, with nodes, really pushing the boundaries on a global level now even, to where this channel may be. Because one thing I really like is not just the opportunism and the opportunity that it brings, but also to make sure it does well. So I throw that in there occasionally. So today, and we know what nodes is. So today, so by the way, if you're 74 and you wake up after your open heart surgery, this is how you want to wake up. But that's just an image that I really liked, and that's why I threw it in the behind. So what we're going to talk about is the movement. The movement of voice, what does it mean? How can you, doubting is a great word in Dutch. I have no clue what that is in English. Framing. So what is it? Secondly, we'll go into the engagement. So how is it landing? What are the numbers, but what are the examples? But also, what are the design principles that you can use when you think about it yourself? And lastly, we're going to get you to work. And that's a very quick exercise, which is fun. You'll do it in small teams, which is energetic. It's so much fun. I did one this morning already. So we're going to do it here, and we're going to create our own voice service. And we're going to hear it, and we're going to do some fun things with it. It's not going to take long, but you'll like it. Is that a plan to do for today? Are we up for this?
Yes.
Good. And by the way, I love being, yes, you can order drink. I always think, if you want to order a drink, do it. Let's see how far we can push this. If you want to interrupt me, I'm always up for that. If you don't agree with me, I'm always up for that. So feel free to shout out any questions. You already do so. So please do that.
Can I start with a question?
Of course.
Why did you start with AR and going to voice? Is that a specific reason? Because personally, I think AR is phenomenal and it overlaps with voice quite a lot.
Yeah. Augmented reality, I started 10 years ago. We were the first global platform that really brought it to a general audience as well. When I stopped it 6 years ago, I was tired, I was fed up, it wasn't going where I wanted it to go, and I didn't have the patience or tenacity to keep going, because I like new things every 5, 6, 8 years. So that's part of the reason, and we just couldn't get it to work. Now, knowing a lot about human transformation, how people work, I know I'm just not the guy to do that. So the manifestation and the enabling the transactional part of something new is something I have to ask other people to do. And literally with Layer, that was a different CEO that helped with that, but it was too late already. We should have built that differently. So now I approach such things differently. But I do think that voice is going to be, it has more reality in it than augmented reality. Augmented reality is still looking for a problem. There's billions of dollars, euros being invested in it, and that's not just Magic Leap that has literally like 500 billion, I don't know, I can't count, but a lot of money in there. And that is by now within the industry a low number, because half of Facebook is on AR, VR, for instance. Apple is going crazy about it. I know a little bit about the industry and I hear some things. But overall, there's still no real use case. There's just belief. Voice, there is a use case. There is usage. There is sales of these devices. They're cheap. They're not big headsets. So that's why also voice, it's closer to now than AR. That's what once I got going with voice, also realized. But for me also, maybe just I see a lot of repeating things happening, and that's where I see a lot of value for myself to add to this. I'm going to stop answering your question now and go to my story. That's also me telling me. So voice is the original interface. We started talking not just when you were 4, we started talking 50,000 years ago. And if we did not talk, we wouldn't have built the pyramids. We wouldn't start farming, which is good or not good, but that's a whole other discussion. We wouldn't have had this building. We wouldn't have had this awesome tiki design. There's a tiki bar back there. We should have the pina colada there, by the way. So we wouldn't have that corporation. And so if you think about it, we kind of do it automatically. But it's really impressive. It's the main interface. It's the last interface, apart from plugging maybe something in. But that's, again, so new, like AR, that we don't know what kind of levels we will go there. And if you, again, think about it even worse, and somebody's calling me and I'm going to turn it off. Oh, nice. Yes. Your keyboard, your mouse is actually a mediocre tool if you combine it or compare it to what you can do vocally. Look at how much I can convey now, how much emotion I can bring in my story. And you can't do that with text. I miss that with chatting and things like that. You don't have that. So I think typing is mediocre communication. And of course, you can talk way quicker than you type, especially if you only use 2 fingers. That's me. And you're dyslexic, so it's like that. And the new Apple keyword, by the way, I hate it. And I'm going to pretend it's broken and get a new one. But most importantly, it's also the medium, the channel that is being adopted faster than web, than mobile, than anything out there. And that's really weird because not everybody, especially here in Holland, uses it yet. But if you look at the global numbers, it's going crazy. My personal moment, and that's again why I chose voice, I'm going to so come back to this every other slide, is I always find things just before. I did it with AR, I did it with mobile, I did it with email, I did it with web. And it's about to really, yeah. So when I leave, it's gone mainstream. If you don't see me again, then that's a hint. If you look at the numbers, this is like a low number. There's always a lot of report, but 66 million users in the US really doing it well. In Holland, just this week, they had 500,000 reported huishoudens. I asked the researcher what it meant, but basically, it's a term.
CBS figures?
No, this is Multiscope. John, he's a friend of mine, he has the company. But yeah, so this is, and 2 months ago it was 400,000. So I mean, in a year we'll have 1 million. I know that for sure. And that's going to happen, because look at what KLM is doing. Look at what Albert Heijn is doing. I'll show that later. But that's what's going on. Oh, and by the way, I brought Alexa and Google so we can talk to her. Yeah. Hey, Google, say hi.
Sure. Hello there.
Alexa, what's the weather?
I'm flattered, but that's not me. I'm your Google Assistant.
Currently, in Amsterdam, it's 18 degrees Celsius with clear skies and sun. Tonight, you can expect
Alexa, stop.
a few clouds in the sky with
Alexa,
a low of 9 degrees.
Stop. So every day I do that. Every day I ask for the weather, turn on my lights on and off. I've been doing this for 5 years. My kids do it. Actually, just now I had a new Wi-Fi installed, because now you have to have those, what's it called? Those same stations everywhere. And then my lights broke, as in the Philips Hue thingy didn't get it anymore. So I was already in bed, kind of sleeping. And then my wife went to bed, and she's like, Alexa, lights off. And then my 12 lights did not turn off. And she was really pissed, because she had to like find the knoppen and stuff like that. So that happens. Anyway, numbers are going up. Yeah. You're going to always hear numbers. You're going to, so this week when Multiscope came out with their numbers, with their 5 million, the AD, Algemeen Dagblad, framed it negatively. E-Mers framed it positively. It was so interesting to see how all the media tried to create their clickbait, because of course that's their business model. I saw it on Sunday already, because like I said, a friend of mine published it, and I saw that by chance in the stream. So the numbers will always have a connotation, and it's always across the board, because it's new. Some people will like it, some people will not, and yeah. The key is, if you're in the business of communication, if you're interested in new things, try to figure out what's going underneath. That's what I always try to do. And if you know this model from innovators to early adapters to early majority, late majority, laggards, etc. In Holland, we are innovators, early adopters, roughly. So only nerds like me, my neighbor only has one because I gave him one last week. In the US, I have my mother-in-law. She has one. She's average Mary, and her name is Mary. And she has one. She talks to it occasionally. Not uses it all the time, but she does use it. And that is really the case. So they're in the early majority already. They crossed the chasm. And again, this shows you how quickly this is developing. So there are two main brands that you know. Amazon Alexa, Google with their home devices. They're being rebranded to Google Nest devices, because that was a better brand for them, which I think is a good one. So they have 60 to 70% of the market in the US. They have a little bit less. In Europe, it's mostly Google. No, not really. I mean, it's kind of weird. So Google has 80 languages they are available in. Alexa really wants to, or Amazon really wants to keep up their quality. So they really are selective on where they launch. And of course, what is it, 20 million, 50 million people that we are here, we're not enough really to be on top of, or above the fold. Let me put it that way. But we'll get there. So they're now in their 4th generation of hardware devices. They're really smart. My favorite service is Alexa. I mean, I kind of speak English, so that helps. Regarding hardware, I mean, look at like this one here. That's as large as a cassettebandje. Who has a, who knows still what that is? And you basically, you plug it into your car. It's $20, and you have a full full service Alexa in your car. One of the main things now is that they make sure that it really works with the local assistant which is in your car already, if you have a new car at least.
Did you just say you put that in the cassette deck of your car?
No, I did not. No. Yeah, I know. No. And for you it's good. Yeah, no, yes. You put it in your what's the other one, the before, the big tapes?
8-track.
Thank you. You put it in your 8-track, Chris. Yes.
What is that?
Google it. Alexa, what is an 8-track?
Alan McLevich, known by his stage name 8-track, is a Canadian DJ,
Alexa, stop.
record producer, and music label executive.
He doesn't hear me here. Alexa, stop. Yes. And just for the camera, I hope it doesn't matter if I stay on this side. Yes. It keeps you busy. Huh? You're too on your phone. Yeah, what shall I say? I think most importantly also is that the screens are now coming on board. So in Holland last week, the Google Nest Hub, yes, that's their new name, because hey, have 3 words. And that's the one with the screen, that's this one. I have it at home, forgot to bring one. What is really nice about this is you have feedback. So now you're just looking at me, but oh, you nodded. That's kind of what the machine does too. It like nods and you can see your sentence that you're saying, so you're being understood. That's really important to have with these things, especially in the beginning. I mean, I'm now used to talking to this, but of course everybody has their first experience. I think that screen, especially if the price will come down, is very important to do. So you also have Siri. Who here has a good experience with Siri? Yeah, you like Siri? A lot of people don't like it. So one little story about Siri is, so Dag Nicolaus and his buddy, whose name I always forget, started that roughly 12 years ago. Within 3 months, they were bought by the phone Apple guy, Steve Jobs. This was 3 months before he died. And this was the last acquisition that he did. And the rumor is that he did so because he knew voice was the next big thing, and he wanted to make sure that was in the company. Tim, the next one, is very good at ERP and distribution and stuff like that, not at innovation. So that's why the team at Apple is still maybe 1,000, 2,000, but it's still not a main thing, voice. You don't have Siri OS. Compared to Amazon, which is 10,000, and they're looking for 5,000 people, more people. So the big thing is that we have to wait till Apple wakes up. And it's kind of like with mobile, when you had BlackBerry and Nokia, you were also kind of like, we wonder what they'll do. And look, who here has an iPhone? That's what I mean. So also don't go crazy looking at what they do. They're great now, but it could be somebody else soon. For instance, Bixby, because Dag and his buddy, they started a new company after they could leave their good deal that they, of course, made with Apple. And they started Viv Technologies. And Viv Technologies has an awesome architecture, which is next level because it's the second generation voice platform that was designed. And guess who bought them? Samsung. And guess what they have? Bixby. So Bixby 2.0 is the first second generation voice platform. And what's most interesting, who here does not have a Samsung device at home? You don't?
I don't.
Oh, okay. Well, overall, then it's like 500 million devices out there. It's crazy how much they have, like fridges, anything, TVs. So their aim is to put it in anything. So anything that can talk, they will make talk with their own platform. And because it's a really interesting next generation, so the architecture is really modern. I won't go into it too much. Yeah, that could be really impactful. And they just started their developer days in the US. It's not working in Dutch, for instance, yet. So if this really will play out, they need to prove. They're just starting out. But they're a really interesting contender. And of course, you have Microsoft with Cortana. They just said, we're going to do only business to business, so don't focus on speakers and stuff like that. And they're really doing well. They really, for instance, just now at their Microsoft Build event, the CEO said, like, every company will have their own conversational graph within 5 years. Conversational graph basically means that you have a model where you understand where your product is, where the users are, kind of like what KLM just explained in a way. If you kind of look at it, so what do they know? They know how to do a conversation with their customers. And that's what, of course, Microsoft wants to enable as well.
Didn't they just announce that they're going to remove Cortana from consumer computers and replace it with Alexa?
They have a good cooperation. So the consumer straight part, yeah, they do stuff, but they mostly focus on the enterprise business. Yes. One other thing to realize is that this, of course, is a very big thing that is impressive. I mean, Amazon introduced this and over 100 million were sold. But in the end, it's going to disappear in your lamp, in your speaker, in your computer. And anything you have in your remote. Just yesterday, this brand, I forgot the brand, Logitech introduced a voice remote. Because I get that question a lot. Why do you still press a button? Well, it's annoying to say next all the time. But it's going to disappear in any device. There's a really cool company, and they design chips, for 5 cents that are really, you can put in your light switch, and it'll listen for on and off. Can you imagine that? In 5 years, that'll be normal. In the US, in Amazon, loads of these kind of devices are being sold for nothing.
The clapper, well,
Yes, no, it doesn't do that. Clapper is also, it comes with the 8-track. Yes. So that's kind of the framing. So we're starting, it's really picking up, adoption is crazy. So what's happening now? How is it landing in the world, in the real world? So first off, it doesn't really work always. I don't think we have too many millennials here. I sometimes have millennials in the room and I have to explain who Manuel is. Manuel is somebody, when you talk to him, he doesn't really want to hear you. So mostly he doesn't. And if he does hear you, he kind of acknowledges it and he doesn't do what you ask him to. If you're lucky, he actually does what you want him to do. But overall, you will always look like a shouting bastard. And this is, of course, mostly the state of voice. So that's something to, as a design situation, to take into account. It's not always perfect. It's getting way better. Literally, I just updated the Google speaker. I put in a new voice. It's actually, it sounded to me just now as good as I like Alexa. And I grew up with Alexa the last 5 years. I saw how well it is developing. So it's getting better. But for instance, the Dutch version, they literally copied, say, 10% of the functionality, told who André Hazes is and what poffertjes are, but that's it. So it's really crude. And of course, it's machine learning. It's in a perpetual beta. And 5 years of 200 million Americans versus a couple of months of potentially 15 million Dutchies talking to a machine, that doesn't teach the machine too much yet. So it's going to be a while until it's really warmed up. And that's how it works.
30 minutes.
Thank you. So should we be afraid? That's also something I hear a lot. Is it something that we should, you think about GDPR and all these privacy. Yesterday I had an awesome event thinking about the future with awesome people like Ben van der Berkel, and the main thing was data and privacy. They're stealing everything. I think most importantly with voice, it's about perception. So when my parents were able to use the ATM in the 80s, they did not do so. It took them 10 years to feel relaxed to go to the street and get their money there. And this is the same for voice. It's the first time that you have a speaker that listens. You never thought about that. And yeah, what does it do? How does it work? People don't know. And it takes time for a new medium, for a new channel, and literally such a new thing to find its place in people's lives. And I think most important thing is to have people have their own onboarding time. Give them that. Because that's the key thing. I mean, of course, your phone is way more hackable, trackable. Everything is in there. But the voice, doesn't do that much. I mean, there are some risks if you want to think about it. But the key thing is you can never really discuss this functionally. Because it's always about the perception and the emotion that goes around it. Because you know for sure that Google and Amazon and Samsung, they have enough lawyers to make sure that it is GDPR proof, that their data is protected. And if it isn't, they'll fix it very quickly. So it's never really about the practical risk, let alone that we really understand what it is. But that's a whole other thing. And yeah, personally, I love the comparison. Like, where are we if we compare it to all the other devices that we had? I mean, I tried to use America Online and CompuServe, but nobody remembers what they are, so I use mobile. And yeah, we're still at this stage. We're still at the stage where you just call, but of course, it's not calling that you do with the speaker, so what is it? But we only know the difference between how we use the phone now and what we did back then. And imagine that difference happening quicker with this new channel. That's the key message here. And what's interesting as well, this is the voice map we introduced last week. The voice industry map basically captures all the companies that are doing something in voice. This is the early alpha because it's a crowdsourced project and everybody now is adding their own company to it. But there's an industry starting. There is something new emerging. Last week at Open Voice, an event I organize every 2 months, 180 people together, we find out what's happening. We had the theme health and care. And there was a company, Sound Health, from Boston, and they shared that within 6 seconds they can hear what kind of disease you have. Not everything, but specifics. nodesagency.nl/voice map, and you can get it.
No, that's not cool enough to talk about.
I know.
So this is like history, yeah.
I'm so lost now in my talk.
Anyway, that's great.
Yeah, Sound Health, yes. But so voice is not just an interaction channel, it's also a diagnostic channel. We never thought about that. They just got 14 million. Yeah, so the VCs really vet where they put their money. So that's interesting. So what do people do? I kind of said it. Most people do music with their speakers. Most people ask what the weather will be. Then you have general information, fun things. I use the timer, a lot of light on and off, simple functionality things. And people want brands to work, want the KLM stuff to work. I really like that. But that's also designing the future by looking in the rearview mirror. Because, of course, something new will happen. We never saw Facebook coming. We never saw Snapchat coming. And that's what's going to happen here, too. Something new will emerge that we won't ever think about. And I think it's Rushkoff, or no, the other one, Douglas Adams, who said, like, any technology that you encounter before your 20s is going to be awesome and great. And only after that, it's going to be, I'm never going to use it. And so, yeah, I don't know what your age is, but yeah, and that's hard to see that potential. But I definitely think it's going to be there. And like I said earlier, it's going to be closer than augmented reality, which eventually will happen, by the way. So the Dutch launch partners are right here in short with their starting sentence. Shall we do some? Which one shall we try?
Transavia.
Hey Google. Praat met Transavia.
No.
Ik weet niet hoe ik hierbij kan helpen.
So interesting. So Carlijn is her name. She called all the brands like, hey, you want to join? We're going to launch. We Google. We're going to do something big and awesome. And so lots of companies say, yes, of course. And scramble to do something. Some are already busy. For instance, Albert Heijn, KLM, we're doing their stuff. Mirabeau built the Transavia one, and that was purely opportunistic, just for the PR value. So I know this by chance. And I'm now collecting who fell off the wagon in the last month. And I do a yearly event now. Next one is October. So previous October, it just launched. Next October, I want to really have them line up. And who's still there and who isn't. Hey Google, praat met NOS.
Prima, ik haal NOS erbij. Welkom bij de NOS. Wat wil je horen? Het laatste nieuws of de webdienst?
Het laatste nieuws.
Oké, ik haal het laatste nieuws voor je op.
5 uur.
Renate Kok met het NOS Journaal. Tientallen bedrijven testen weer.
So what's interesting, I will get the news for you, and then you literally hear an audio file. Did you feel that? So that's kind of like interesting. Instead of just, okay, or just tell you the news. It's still kind of, you know, like bandopname. Do you want to try another one? Oh, that's a good one. I have never done that one. Hey Google, praat met André Lon.
Ik heb je niet begrepen, helaas. Wil je het herhalen?
Oh, I'm still in the other one. Hey Google, stop. Hey Google, praat met André Lon.
André Lon wordt niet ondersteund op dit apparaat.
That's another one. Oh, thank you, because I did not check that. Rituals, this one. And there was another one. Yeah. I like Albert Heijn. I'll do that one. Alexa. I do this so. And I have to wait because otherwise I get confused. Hey Google, praat met Albert Heijn.
Prima, hier is Albert Heijn.
Dit is Appie, wat kan ik voor je doen? Ik help je graag met je lijst, recepten en jouw bonusaanbiedingen.
Lijst, it's so short. I love how this is really well designed. Hey Appie, ik heb komkommer en kip. Wat kan ik maken?
Deze week is er geen bonusaanbieding voor Atlas Houdousti Wall Design. Waar kan ik je nog meer mee helpen?
Ik heb kip en komkommer. Wat kan ik maken?
Wat denk je van kip piri piri en komkommer? Dit gerecht bereid je in ongeveer 5
Hey Google, stop. It kind of works. You see that? I mean, we had some manuals, but it works.
But you really need to have that screen, isn't it? Because when you're standing in your kitchen, you go, oh God, what?
Yeah, I have a whole thing, and I read recipes sometimes just for inspiration. So for me, it will never work. But yeah, I mean, some people need it. Some people like structure. Some people accept structure and actually follow rules. So yesterday, like Gillette just said, we had the Spin Awards. I was there. They won KLM because, and I was in the jury. That's why I was there, and I saw them pitch. It was really nice, and stress and all that. We chose KLM as a winner because literally they're betting big on voice. They won last year already with their packing service, but now if you look at what they're doing really well. They're also awesome engineers, means that technically API-wise it's all right, or it's good. Interaction-wise, it's not as good, for instance, as Albert Heijn, which is really nice, really short. KRO, they have Binnenste Buiten. Anybody here watch Binnenste Buiten? Oh, there you go.
Then I'm cooking.
Oh, what's her name? I met her again, the Suriname lady.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Complicated thing.
Yes, so she's really a real good character, really nice, specific voice. So what they did, even before Google went live, they cut her up, her voice, and they created the voice service with pieces of audio of her. And that's why it touches, it's the right feeling that fits with her that you know from the program. So that's why we gave them a good point, because they really did a great job. Auping, on the other hand, and this is the one who's responsible, who was very happy when they won, literally this was last night, they had a big branding campaign because mattresses, according to them currently, is not about price and functional stuff, it's about the experience you have in your bed. No, not there, thank you. That wasn't deliberate pause because, hey, it's almost 5. Oh, it is 5. And so it's an experience, and so they have a big rebranding, repositioning campaign, and they thought, hey, okay, Carlijn, because Carlijn called them as well from Google, yes, of course, we'll join you, and we'll create bedtime stories, because they had Brigitte Schurman already, and she's the voice for that nice bedtime story that you can read with, or listen to with your kid in your bed. And that's why it was a really smart, of course it's opportunistic, but that's not wrong, but it's a really smart play using an up-and-coming medium. So really nice, so that's why they won. So what do the people in the street think? That's what I was wondering. So a while back I went to the market here around the corner in Oost, the Dappermarkt, and I asked some people, so do you think you will go do shopping with your voice soon? And this is not undertitled. Sorry about that for whoever's English here.
Sorry, met waar? Met de stem. Ik kan me niets meer voorstellen. Oh, dat is... het lijkt me... weinig van doen, ja? Nee. Nee? Nee. Dat denk ik niet hoor. Ik weet dat ik wil. Nee, zie het zo ziet, dus ook nog niet. Ah, oké. Ja, nou. Ik twijfel of de energie er is voor je. Denk je dan niet meer ergens naartoe rijden om het van handen, maar je moet wel even goed uit van, denk ik.
Ja, kijk even wat je moet doen.
Maar, nou, dat is wel heel eenvoudig. Nou ja, dan zijn het echt zo'n ding aan het praten. Dat zijn die goed die mensen. Ja, dan zit je tegen een steen ding aan te praten. Kan je net goed tegen de muur aan praten.
I have a thing for old ladies. I'm very sorry that she keeps coming back.
Is die een mobiele telefoon? Ja.
I love him. So this is, if you deny it, well, look about what you denied earlier. So last year at the Google I/O, Google introduced Duplex. Anybody here familiar with Duplex? Duplex basically is the assistant of Google that calls for you to make your restaurant booking. They first thought it was fake, but it's actually very real. And this is one of the first videos of it at a restaurant in the wild, basically. So the audio and the visual is pretty bad, but you'll get the idea. It's a computer.
Yes, at what time would you like to reserve?
At 7 p.m.
Okay, perfect. How many people?
It's for 2 people.
Okay, 2 people tomorrow at 7 p.m. What's your name?
The first name is Anna.
Anna. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.
See you tomorrow. She forgets she's talking to a computer.
Great, that was seamless.
This is rolled out in most states now in the US, iPhone, Android, and there's actually usage data. I haven't even read the article yet, like how many times it's used and stuff like that. So this is the dynamic, if you are starting out with voice, that you have to deal with. On one hand, customers expect your agent to be awesome, your digital agent. On the other hand, people are like, no way, I'm using this, screw you. So I love that, because that's the reality you need to deal with. And of course, there's one thing that is key with doing a conversation. If I talk to you, I want to know who you are. We're level, literally I can look in your eyes. As a company, you probably have never done so. You've always had a distance. You never really cared about these people. Well, how do you do a conversation if you don't care about the other one? That to me is one of my personal motivations to do voice, because it's the most mindful medium ever. And if you're not that, it won't work.
So basically what we're talking about is it's going to be a war. So I will have my
War. What?
I'll have my duplex bot attack the customer service of KLM.
Oh, yes.
Searching for my bag. And they'll just keep barraging
Oh, yeah.
until I find my bag.
Yeah, the gray goo of voice. Nice. I like it.
KLM bot till we find my bag.
Yeah.
Deflecting and
Yeah, nice. Yeah. Stuff will happen.
it's going to be fun.
Yeah. Oh, I'll write that one up soon and think it out. Yeah, I like that one. Thank you. Good one.
You're going to create your own online persona.
Well, instead of doing that, let's figure out how we can start. So say you're a company, say you're an agency, you want to advise your customers, like, how do we start this? Together with Ben Sauer, well-known designer in voice, there's the 4 opportunity lenses you can use. Very simple, very straightforward. First off, look at what you're doing in customer service. KLM did this, several others did this. And that way you can basically start with what the people are asking you already. And you can have your business case right away, because if your automated question answer service actually does its job, you can literally see how many agents' time, or how much agents' time you can save. The other one is very interesting, because you can just ask the customer, what do you want to talk about? You can sit in their hallway, in their living room, anywhere, and just look at what they're doing. Say you're Mars. Are they talking about Mars? No. But say they would. What would they say at the kitchen table? Brand creative is basically what you saw with Auping. What kind of campaign is running already, and could you use voice around it? And design fiction, that is basically, you know what the future is, and you're going to design for it. This is KLM. This is Albert Heijn, and I'll show you some more later. But basically, you put you have balls and budget, and you go at it. So let's go for an example. So customer service Rabobank, they started out a little before Carlijn called. They accelerated because Carlijn called. And if people check their accounts, several million times a day. Let's just check how much money I have. Where is it? Praat met Rabobank. Wi-Fi.
Oké, hier is Rabobank. Hallo, je praat met de Rabo-assistent van Rabobank. Waarmee kan ik je helpen?
Hoeveel geld heb ik?
Rabobank te blijven gebruiken, moet ik je Rabobank-account aan Google koppelen. Is
So,
dat goed?
every 2 weeks, she asked me to reconfirm that in 75 clicks and an interaction with the reader that it's okay that we do this. This morning it worked. But I think it's awesome. I mean, they're the first in the world that did this. They did it in almost less than 6 months. They really took some courage internally because for a bank to do this, it's pretty sick. One of the key elements that helped them is that they had a CPO in their project team. And this is not the chief product officer, no, it's a chief pushing officer. So this was literally board level, bolknokniveau. And the Friday before the Monday launch, he proved his worth. Because the enterprise level contract with Google wasn't signed, which enabled them to have an anonymous pipe between the speaker, just now, me and the computer, and the back end of Rabobank. And the lawyers were taking their time, they didn't know what it was, and so they were vetting everything to make sure it complied, et cetera, et cetera. And he pushed it through at the last moment to make sure that they were live at the right moment. And I mean, I love it that it wasn't about design and all that. No, it was about process, why they won. And by the way, right now they have ready already the voice ticky. Yeah, so a payment request, so you're cycling drunk home and hey Nails, or send a $100 or $100 ticky to Nails. I could technically do that now, but Google is still deliberating if they should put that on the platform because they don't know the security implications and stuff like that. So going to customer service or user research. This is a flipped example. David Lowe, he currently runs the whole Google voice department, by the way, the biggest voice team in the world apart from Google and Amazon and stuff. He had a web ticket agency, so you could book tickets to go anywhere through his agency. You heard about voice 5 years ago, and he's like, awesome, I'm going to do this. This is going to be the future. I know it. I'm a nerd. So in 3 months, he created the biggest flow chart ever of I want to have an aisle seat, I want to go to Ibiza, non-smoking, I don't know what, anything you can imagine. And as a nerd, he knew and he did. He designed the whole conversation because he could figure it out. He did the website and the mobile site, so he could do it for voice too. And so he went live, and within a couple days, 70% of his usage was just one question. Where can I go for 300 pounds? So he could save all that stuff by asking questions to his customers. And that's key about voice. You don't know. I did it myself as well with Project Silver. Project Silver is a collaboration that I set up between the SVB, they're paying your pension, and your kinderbijslag, ANBO, which is the Old People's Fund Group, Google, Achmea, and Nodes. We created a consortium to figure out how we can use voice to make older people's lives better. Because it's potentially awesome, because they don't want to type, they don't want to do banking and stuff like that. So what can we do? What is it? Of course, I had right away a vision. Let's save people. You're lying on the floor. My mom has a speaker. She just calls out, hey, help me, and it's figured out. Instead of the stigmatizing alarm button that she's not going to wear for another 20 years. But of course, within that first meeting, you actually facilitated it. Nothing came out to build. No, because we first were going to start with research. And asked them, hey, what do you think about voice? And I was like, oh, this is such a great lesson. Because again, myself here even did it the wrong way around. We did a research with 3,500 elderly. We did a practical research where we gave 20 of them a speaker, and we followed them for 2 weeks and got all kinds of information. And basically now we are running the projects based on the feedback that we got. We're creating a support system. We're doing social stuff. A lot of work now on the onboarding. So by the end of the year, you'll probably get like a buy one, get one free version. So you can give your parents one. And Seniorenweb's number will be in there, as well as non-stigmatizing, yet indirectly targeted use case examples for the elderly, because they will literally have lots of benefit. User research. You already heard Auping. I already said that. We'll just do it very quickly because I'm running so out of time. Hey Google, praat met Auping.
Prima, hier is Auping. Dit Auping-bedtijdverhaal heet Bram en het magische...
Starts right away, hear that?
Buiten is het stil en donker. Alleen de wind jaagt met een diepe zucht door de straten van de stad.
Hey Google, stop.
Iedereen slaapt. Nou ja.
Hey Google, stop. I had to put my Basil Fawlty voice on. Yeah, I like it. It's very simple, and they have like a character, which is literally a robot voice, which is perfect.
How long is that the bedtime still?
10 minutes. Their execution in the end is young. It's a good play. That's why they won the prize. So KLM is one of my key examples for balls and budget. They literally are, oh, she's gone now, Martina, her boss, she said recently in my podcast that they have the resources now to build the main travel assistant or to go for that vision. And I think that's awesome because that's the only way to do it, to really go out there and build something new, and that's how you really innovate. And they have all these APIs that we just saw available. You heard the story in short. Very cool. Albert Heijn is another one. 2 years ago when I started out, by chance, through the then CEO, Wouter, I got a chance to talk to the main voice guy. And I was like, hey, I know shit. I'm going to sell some good projects here. Well, no way, because they were kind of done already. They figured everything out, and they were just waiting for Google to go live. This is really fun. And well, I do know them now. They're really, well. Talpa is another good example. Talpa knows that, and this is the Talpa radio part. So Veronica, 538, stuff like that. They literally just did their back-end rebuild, basically. They don't use tapes anymore. They have like a Spotify enterprise version, in my terms. And they did it because they see voice happening, and they will know there will be lots of new functionality that they need to be able to serve. And they created their own Spotify called Juke. So they also are putting a lot of money in this. They're one of the, yeah, they also have a big team, in short. So that's the balls and budget. Thank you. By the way, you'll get this deck later so you can read everything, follow all the links and stuff like that. If you are starting out for the first time, you will always have the nerd or the me type who somewhere created that Hello World version, the really ugly, simple version. And eventually people will see it. And that is the next stage, and then people will ask questions. Should it be in the innovation team or should it right away be with customer service? Where will it go? How does it comply to all the rules, etc., etc.? That's the next part. This is mostly also where you give it a name so you can refer to it as well as your team members. But eventually you let go of the name as well because it actually only matters if it works or not. So BB, the name that KLM gave it 2 years ago, it's actually not being used anymore because they don't need it because it's a clear channel for them and for the users. It just needs to work, so that's their focus. That all happens here. And at one point, it'll be where websites are, where mobile is, and that's where you get tangible value and a growth, and you will scale to like a bowling alley to other services and other functions that you have as a company. And that way you grow your earnings and save more, because unfortunately, that's always what it is about. In short, if you create, it's 90% design work. 10% is only the technical stuff. Because most people have pretty good APIs, a pretty good or enterprise whatever, but you've never really designed a conversation. You talk since you were 4, but you never thought about it. You don't know how to design a conversation. And really, I mean, the happy path, hey, give me a ticket. Okay, here it is. You can figure it out. But all the other ways people refer to this, all the other ways they can go wrong about it or say it in a creative, different way that you don't understand or that you don't have on offer, and you have to get them back. That is the work that you need to do then. That's why you need agencies to help you do that. To really become that mindful, to see how to do this well. If you think about designers now, designers say it needs to be red because it's good. I'm ego. Look at my good shit. With voice, it's not about that. It's about listening, literally, and hearing what you all say, what words you have, and diligently writing that all up and making sure the machine knows that. That's a whole different personality. So how does it work? You have your wake word, Alexa, hey Google, or even press a button if you use Samsung products. And then it's very simple. You have your sound, what time is Happy Days on? And then the automatic speech recognition recognizes the words. So it's turned from a wave form into ASCII text, to put it very bluntly. And that can go into a machine, and the machine is, in this case, the natural language understanding, the brains, who figures out, oh, you mean the start time of program 514244 today, and sends that to the back end, and which then can answer this. That's how it works. It's that simple. And the NLU, of course, is the most important part, It's just statistics, by the way. It's nothing that special. I mean, yes, machine learning, AI, if you put it on a slide deck. But it's just the statistics. Lots of data goes into that to do this well, and it works. And you have specialized companies here in Holland, for instance, like Mbot, who do it really well in Dutch. And if you don't like the big Googles and Amazons, you work with them. We do as well. Or you use the big ones. It doesn't really matter. There's lots of them on offer. An utterance is what we say. And the intent is what the NLU figures out we want. So you have lots of ways to say things. What time is Happy Days on? When it is? Play Happy Days. And they all mean the main thing. Play it now or as soon as I can. And that's the ambiguity kind of that you need to deal with while designing for voice. And just some very quick principles. Be brief. Make sure it fits in one breath. Progressive disclosure. I want to go to Eindhoven. Well, that was this morning. I don't want to hear all the train times. I just want to hear the first one. That's relevant for me. So not the one. So right now, if I open the app, I see one from 2 minutes ago. That's not relevant. I can't make 2 minutes to Amstel. So you need to be smart. And then, oh, do you want to go a later one? You can ask the user. That's progressive disclosure. Start with the most relevant. Be cooperative. So don't ask, so you want this train? No, I know what I want. Or even like just now with the NOS, I will now start your new. That's not relevant. Give it to me, now. Just the facts, ma'am. Considerate confirmation. When I call Neos with Siri, I used to have to say, hey Siri, call Neos Wilberink. Oh, yeah, here it goes. And now, of course, mostly now it just says either this, what you just heard, calling Neos Wilberink, or it says, okay, because we know each other now. So that's considerate confirmation. It figured out that Neos, which is a weird way of spelling your name, or saying your Naos name, yeah, it knows that now. So considerate confirmation. Fail gracefully. I think this is the best one. Oops, I didn't get it. Or, no, really? Did you say that? Oh, I wish I could understand you, but I don't. And you can envision your service being not an 8-track, Formula 1 drives on a racetrack. It's a racetrack, and some people will ask something that is outside of your racetrack to book a ticket or whatever, and then you have to come up with a fun way or a fitting way to get them back on your racetrack and acknowledge that they're not out there and come back. So how do you do that? So spend more time on your errors than on your happy path. One of the key things also is now your companies spend lots of money on visual branding. Well, this is going to be over because you're also going to spend lots of money on persona. So who am I talking to? How does this sound? Literally, I think in Holland, apart from just the hours spent by people, the biggest voice investments are now the companies that create these persona, that do voices. For 100,000 euros, you get your own voice, either Brigitte Schuurman or whatever you like. They have a great process. Because companies really want their own voice. Somehow they got a sweet current spot in the market. I was really surprised. Like a year ago, they didn't have that business. I hear all the players now are doing it. Really good for them. But you also need sonic branding. We heard it a little bit, but we didn't notice. I didn't point it out with Albert Heijn. They have like beeps before and after you talk to somebody. Or it says something. That's really important. But it also has to be aligned with everything you do, your commercials, your apps, etc., etc. And that is your sonic branding. Yeah, does it sound like a classical orchestra, or is it literally here, really befitting a jungle? All those kind of things. Oh, and voice search. I get a lot of questions about this. And to be really harsh, it does not work yet in search. Or search doesn't work in voice, as in Google is kind of big, but their snippets and anything else you can do have kind of an influence, but you don't really know if Google's going to be it, how Alexa's hardly influenceable, and you have all these other players. So for now, even Search Engine Watch, one of the main players within search and search manipulation, they advise just don't focus on it for now. It doesn't really matter. Focus on learning to converge. That's the key thing. Second to last slide. And you can't hear it. This is really annoying. I need to get another video.
Set a timer for 10 minutes. What's the weather today?
What's the weather today?
Tomorrow. Show me John Legend on Twitter. Get a Lyft ride to my hotel.
So knows location, lift, and where she wants to go, the hotel.
Turn the flashlight on.
So this was Google I/O 2 weeks ago. And in short, their big code base for voice, which is of course in the cloud, they shrunk, put on the phone, and that's why I can quickly do multiple things. So Uber or a Lyft ride to my hotel. So Lyft, call the Lyft app, location now, hotel is this location, give route. All those things now are combined, that you can do that already, but in one flow and that quickly. I really like that. Yes?
The majority also works offline, which is even more impressive.
Yeah, exactly. And they because it's so, that's the key thing, it's so small, so it can be on your speaker, and it's, as now everything is in the cloud, of course it's going to be local, because then it is quicker, and it's going to be in your watch and everything. So this is the future, and again, just to confuse you with the dynamics of voice, because on one hand, it's going to be a experience with Manuel, and on the other hand, people will want this. So to end with Martine van der Lee, and you just got her quote confirmed at the beginning. I learned this from her 2 years ago. In a world dictated by big tech platforms, an own conversation with the customer is vital, and that's what we all need to go for. Thank you very much. But one more thing, if you like to stay up to date, take a picture. This is all the media I make every week. This Sunday I will make the first year anniversary episode of the newsletter about voice. Before summer there will be another free event called the Open Voice where you can join. We will announce it always in there. And every 2 weeks I have the Voice Cast where you can hear me interview, for instance, Martina. Last week I had Centraal Beheer, who also do some interesting stuff, a big team. And this Monday I'm interviewing Philips, which is also some great use cases that they have experience with. And now I'm really done.
Thank you very much. Awesome. Any questions?